everybody, welcome back to the Curator's Shelf, and glad that you're joining me this week for another midweek pop-up. It's a rainy, cold night here, but I just thought I would do a little bit of a chat on the last few days and a deck that just arrived today in the post. Now, this is a mass market deck, and it's kind of like one of those decks that I'd seen a lot of people refer to. It's earthy, Fey energy, it's my kind of style for sure. And I was just really intrigued by it. So without putting you off anymore, you've seen the title probably, it's Tarot of the Secret Forest, right? So this is a low Scarabeo deck. The creator is Lucia Mattioli and, Lucia Mattioli, and it is a low Scarabeo deck, very affordable mass market. So anyway, I bought this because I just felt like it would be a really good addition to the little collection that I'm building now, and I absolutely love Fey energy, so it just really hits that spot. The actual artist depictions in this in this deck are just gorgeous. But what I was thinking about was how it arrived. Now, when the parcel got here, and I opened the sleeve, I have to say it just really annoyed the hell out of me. The box was open, the cards were completely all over the place, and it was so disheveled. And I started to think, well, so I went through them all just to see if they were okay, and then I checked, do I have all the cards here? And it really annoyed me. And the word disheveled still has stayed on my mind then for the next few hours, and that's what I've been thinking about, disheveled. And it kind of like made me think actually of the deck. The deck is called the Tarot of the Secret Forest. Now I don't know the story of what the author is trying to get to, but what's intriguing is that it's that Fey and that earthy energy. And whenever I go into the forest is disheveled. I mean, there's order and there's a lot of beauty, but there's also a lot of things which are not going to look as scenic as they would, let's say, if we had created it man-made, basically. And I find that really, really beautiful, that the card just came in its own natural glory. And the other thing that I was thinking about is the fact that, the cards, some of the depictions are really, really difficult to decipher. Now, some are much easier, but there are those. I mean, this is the Nine of Swords. Now, this is a good one. This is a beautiful one. Now, you can see that he is completely cocooned within this beast, and it's coming down upon him. It's very scary. It's actually a huge caterpillar by the looks of it. So there is something about it which, is translatable and interpretable very easily. And then there's some parts of it which, I do need to spend time. This is the Three of Wands. I do need to spend time looking at. I do need to think about, what is she looking at? What is she focused on? Or perhaps the beauty of those wings, because they are just enormous and absolutely stunning, as we say. But, this is a deck that has really captured me in the last few hours. And as some of you might know about this deck, because it's very well known, is that the back of the deck has the artist's depictions. I think these are the initial sketches. And what I've looked at and what I've realized is that sometimes the sketch, has changed from the original sketch to the actual painting that the artist did later on. So for example, in this one, this is a very good example. So this is the Ace of Swords, and we have this butterfly creature, but the wings are very translucent. Sorry about the sirens. But the wings are very translucent. The body is filled out in a completely different way. I mean, she just looks extremely different. And then when I turn it around and you see this is a much more, for me, a much more butterfly looking depiction. And clearly they have changed in some way. This creature has changed in some way. So for me, it's been an intriguing deck in how it has captured me. Now, for example, in this one, to me here, she looks, she's her clothing, she looks like she's wearing a garter of some sort. She's holding something. I can't fully see it right now, but Yeah, she looks like she's on top of someone actually here. Slightly, it looks like she's on top of someone bent over, to be quite honest with you. Um, and from here, what it looks like is that there are roses or some kind of patches on that seat. Yeah, she actually looks like she's on an animal, some kind of a caterpillar turned over. That's what I see now. It's not a person, it's a caterpillar turned over. Um, but as I look at it this side, now that just looks like a tree, basically. It looks like a tree that is firmly in the ground. So you can see here how different these depictions are as you switch them around. So yeah, this deck is interesting. But then it brought to my mind as I was looking through it this afternoon was, well, if it's doing that and it's creating this kind of like different images, really. I mean, they're similar, but they're not exactly the same. It kind of like makes me think of life, and the fact that I might see something and it looks different when I look again at it. And today I was reading, going through some forums, and there were a couple of things that stood out to me in the last few days. One of them was that somebody had posted something like, what decks would you recommend for daily draws? And what I noticed was there was one person who answered, and it was a bit strange. They were kind of like laughing at the question, and I don't understand what that was about. I really don't understand why they were laughing. So now I'm in my projection here. But I got the feeling that they were laughing that, what, like you're doing daily pulls kind of thing. And it was an interesting moment for me because I was like, okay, what's this about? And daily pulls are great, but I don't take them in such a heavy tone, because if I did, I would end up really confused every day. So for me, if I'm going to do a daily pull, it's more about the deck and getting to know the deck than it constantly being about myself and my own life. And the reason why I say that is because whenever I've actually really looked at cards and looked at kind of like what are they saying about the day, or what they might be saying about myself or a querent or whatever, I actually need time to pass through in order for me to see what's actually happening. And I'm not going to be able to do that if I do it so quickly every 24 hours. But that's my own personal experience. And perhaps it's also to do with how I read. So perhaps other people read in different ways, and they're like, daily draws for ourselves, it's fine, no problem there. But I always think that, even when somebody's asked me, can you do a reading? And if they want to come back within a very short space of time, I'm kind of like, no, we need to breathe. We, not just them or me, we and the cards need a breather, because the cards are a tool for showing some kind of a story, showing some kind of a projection or a trajectory that's going to happen, or perhaps showing parts for self-development. And it's good to allow that time to really let the messages sink in, to have the opportunity to respond to the messages. Because I really believe, that ultimately the cards are this beautiful spiritual tool, but the spirit is between us and whatever we believe in. Or if you're an atheist, I wouldn't know the answer to that question, but however you respond to personal integrity, personal core values and so forth. So for me, the real deal is there. And the cards are a beautiful vehicle in opening up that flower, basically, or just showing and displaying all those aspects. But I would never personally let the cards dictate my life in such a way that I would have no choice. That would for me be really, really kind of like, I would find that personally just very difficult to work with. So that's why for me, this question of timing, breathability, allowing the cards to give their message, share their message, allowing me to reconcile that. There are times when I've seen cards and thought, I don't understand what this has to do with my question. And then maybe a few days later, or even a week or whatever later, I'm like, aha, I get it now. And sometimes the answers have come months later, and that's fine too. But yeah, it just made me think about the whole daily pull thing, and people's thoughts and ideas behind it, and my own personal thoughts, and they're just mine. Of course, there's no right or wrong, right? So there's just what each person is developing for their own journey. But the other thing that I was talking about and thinking about, sorry, was this going back to this word disheveled. And all this talk about shadow work that I keep hearing, especially because we're in October. You know, I always see this time when it's the time of transformation as we go into Scorpio, that it is transformation, and it's interesting because I spoke about the Scorpionic energy a few weeks ago in a video response to someone, but I've said that the Scorpio has actually four symbols for representation. It has the scorpion, which is burrowing underneath sand or in the waters, let's put it this way. We have the snake, so now it's a reptile that is on land or in water, an amphibian. We have also the eagle, which of course those scales have now turned into beautiful iridescent feathers, basically. And then finally we have the phoenix, the mythical creature. So three actual creatures that we know in existence, and one that's mythical. And the story is one of the evolution of the ego and letting go of those bonds and letting go finally of the bondage to our, what some would say, lower self. I don't know how else to put it, but the sides that are hurting us. And just a week ago, I was talking about the Deviant Moon deck and how much I love it, and how much I love the fact that, it's okay to embrace those shadows. And the reason why I say it this way is because part of the deal with that transformation, the way I think about it, and from an astrology point of view, and also from that point of view, is that as we look at the constellations, right, we have the sign of Libra before it. So this is a sign that we're still currently in. The sign of Libra is the seventh house. It's the sign of balance. It's the sign of relationships. It's the sign of harmony. It is linked to Venus. So, of course, there is a beauty and an aspect of beauty to it. The other sign being, of course, Taurus. But Libra is about the harmony. And whenever you look at, by the way, the astrology wheel, we're always looking at the opposite. So the first house is personal. So the seventh house, 6 houses later, is our partnerships. So the second house, being Taurus, is about our money, our finances, our wealth and beauty. And so when you look at the Scorpio, the 8th house is direct opposite in the heavens. We're looking at a house which is to do with governments. It's to do with taxation. It's to do with other people's money. It's to do with investigation. And the reason why I say this is because there's something about transformation where there is a transfix on the element of death and then the element of awakening. But I personally feel that in the element of transformation, as we're going through it, we are going through a period of also looking at not just in terms of what we let go of and what we're embracing, but also looking at how we analyze and because Scorpios do analyze, but also investigate things and look at other people's affairs. And that's a really important part of the energy of transformation, because the ego within us is very difficult to see. It's much easier to see it within others. That's why we always say, that, when we look at somebody and we point a finger at them, there's like another 3 fingers pointing back at us, basically, because that is whatever we see in others is basically a part of us that we're not comfortable with, or is giving us unease. Or on the other side, when we admire something in someone else, we can also be thinking subconsciously, I have that too. Either way, it's not a beating up process. Either way, it's a process of seeing something and going, really? Like, I've seen stuff in other people which I really admire. And I remember when somebody said, but you must have a little bit of that because you're seeing it in them. And I was really stumped because I couldn't see that in myself. And it was kind of like had to be pointed out to me. And it's the same also when I've seen something and I've criticized somebody else and somebody has said to me, well, do you have a little bit of that? Because you're seeing it as well. And I was like, oh yeah, I do actually. And that's kind of like, for me, what the real journey is about. So even, when we have the Tower of the Secret Forest, or whether it's the Deviant Moon, There are beautiful decks. Any deck that we have, there are beautiful decks which again and again show us that the disheveled is going to show us something which actually shows a completed part of, a part of us that completes us. Let's put it that way. When I see something that is in its transformative state, I'm actually seeing all of the ingredients that are there at the beginning and will be there at the end. So the state of transformation is actually really beautiful in its flux, basically. Sorry, that was long-winded, but that's what I was trying to get out there. And so yeah, so you know, as we embrace this 8th house that we're about to go into, it's really a moment, I believe anyway, a moment to allow, when we go from like that caterpillar to butterfly, however you want to put it, you know, when we're going from reptilian scales to feathers, basically, to allow kind of like the transformation in all of its ugliness to be great and beautiful, you know. And so yeah, so that's my story of the word disheveled today. I have no idea if any of this makes sense. You know, the thing about tarot, which I think has really been interesting for me to observe, from the first time I actually interacted with the tarot deck, which was when I was 16, actually, 16, 17, 18, something like that, all the way to then, like, you know, learning tarot and so forth, is that the cards are amazing and they're beautiful. I mean, you know, let me just take, you know, another deck here that I've got. I showed you the Deviant Wheel. Let's go back to the Hush, because that's so autumnal. Even this deck in its shadow phase, or in its enlightening phase, whichever way you want to look at it, there is so much always that we see when we're with nature, right? And we're feeling that sadness, or we're letting go, and everything is in flux, and everything is in a state of wonder or intrigue, or trying to understand what's going on, or observation. You know, I'm observing the crow, but what is the crow observing? For me, that's just beautiful. You know, of things being torn to pieces and structures coming down. For me, the beauty of the whole thing is letting the cards see us in a new way or a different way. But one thing I always have to say, whichever work we do, whether we're using the cards for personal development or divinatory reasons, is I personally always remember, I need to remember that it's the spirit guides that ultimately are guiding me. And the cards are beautiful and they're a tool, but not to become so attached and bonded to them that I twist what I see. And that's part of disheveled as well. For me to see that, you know, not to let the shadow, or whatever you want to call it, the darkness, or not to let the bits that kind of like, I'm like, is that in me too? I didn't want to hear that. Not to let that become so overwhelming and so placed on a pedestal that I can't come out of my own handcuffs or bonds that I've tied myself to, you know. And that for me is part of the story of tarot, is to appreciate the cards for what they are, but not to make them into something else, you know. Let them be that tool, let them be that vehicle, and let them be that channel. But I don't want to lose my touch with the world, you know, the outer world and the world of daily interactions. Because the last thing I'm going to say on this very long video, again, how it's 19 minutes, is, you know, in the everyday world, there's a lot of small talk. But amongst the small talk, I hear a lot of things that help me learn about myself, or learn where I get stuck and I don't have something to say, or I don't know what to say and I'm a bit embarrassed. And, you know, and that's why I really believe that the tarot deck in its full 78 cards, including the minors, including those day-to-day events, the small talk of life, is a huge part of our shadow work. So, or shadow work, or whatever work you want to call it. But yeah, so maybe that's going to be the title of this video. It's a bit of a ramble again. But yeah, I think today's lesson is seeing that envelope and all those cards tipping out with me going, oh no. And that's when I realized this is how the deck is meant to arrive, and it's okay and it's fine. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you at this weekend for another weekend card review. See you later. Bye.